Just walk away, idiot. Marcus Reed stood in the rain-soaked parking lot, watching the young woman stumble toward a luxury car, keys jangling in her unsteady hand. She was clearly drunk. Dangerously so. And she was about to drive. Every instinct told him to intervene. But the look she'd given him when he'd first approached, pure venom, made it clear she didn't want his help. Still, he couldn't just walk away. His daughter Sophie was home waiting for him. What if this woman killed someone's daughter tonight? He took a breath and stepped forward. "Ma'am, please. Let me call you a ride." She spun around, designer heels splashing in a puddle. Even drunk and disheveled, she was stunning, mid-20s, dark hair plastered to her face, expensive dress clinging to her frame. But her eyes were filled with rage and pain. "I said walk away," she screamed. "Mind your own damn business." Marcus held up his hands. "I can't do that. You're going to hurt yourself. Or someone else. I don't need some random guy playing hero." She fumbled with her car door. "I'm fine." She was decidedly not fine. Marcus had been tending bar at the Metropolitan for 3 years. It wasn't the career he'd envisioned. He'd studied software engineering before his wife Emma died, but after becoming a single father to 6-year-old Sophie, bartending offered flexible night hours while she slept and his retired neighbor Mrs. Chen watched her. Tonight had been busy. Friday nights always were. But around 11 p.m., a young woman had stumbled in alone, already tipsy, and proceeded to order drink after drink. Most of the male patrons couldn't take their eyes off her. She had that kind of beauty, the kind that stopped conversations. Late 20s, flawless skin, expensive everything. But there was something desperate in the way she drank, like she was trying to drown something. Marcus had seen it before. Heartbreak, loss, trauma, alcohol was never the solution, just a temporary escape that made everything worse. He'd tried to slow her down, offering water between drinks, but she'd snapped at him. "I'm paying, aren't I? Just pour." When she'd finally stumbled toward the exit around 1 a.m., Marcus had clocked out early and followed. He couldn't let her drive. Now here they were in the parking lot, and she was refusing all help. "Ma'am, I'm not trying to be a hero. I just don't want you to get hurt. Why do you even care?" She leaned against her Mercedes, tears mixing with rain on her face. "You don't know me. Nobody knows me. Nobody cares." "That's not true. Just leave me alone." She managed to get the car door open and collapsed into the driver's seat. Marcus made a decision. He reached in and grabbed the keys from her hand. She lunged at him, but her coordination was shot. "Give those back. That's theft. It's called saving your life." Marcus pocketed the keys. "I'm calling you a rideshare." "Where do you live?" "I'm calling the police," she shrieked. "You're stealing from me. Go ahead." Marcus pulled out his phone. "I'll wait here with you until they arrive. Maybe they can give you a ride home." That seemed to deflate her. She slumped in the driver's seat, head falling back. "Why are you doing this?" Her voice cracked. "Why won't you just let me destroy myself in peace?" "Because someone's daughter is worth saving," Marcus said quietly. "Even if she doesn't think so." She started crying then, deep, wrenching sobs that shook her whole body. Marcus stood in the rain, getting soaked, and waited for her to let it out. Finally, she whispered an address. A very expensive address in the hills. The rideshare arrived 15 minutes later. Marcus helped her into the back seat, she could barely walk, and then made another decision that was probably stupid. "I'll follow in my car," he told the driver. "Just to make sure she gets inside safely." The driver looked relieved. "Appreciate it, man." Marcus followed the rideshare through the wet streets, up into the hills where houses cost more than he'd make in 10 lifetimes. When they pulled up to a modern mansion with floor-to-ceiling windows, he helped the woman to her door. She fumbled with the lockbox, eventually producing a key. The house was dark inside, clearly empty. "Is anyone home?" Marcus asked. "Family? Roommate?" "Just me," she mumbled. "Always just me." "Okay. Can you get yourself to bed? Drink some water." She nodded, leaning against the doorframe. For a moment, she looked at him with clearer eyes. "You're a good person." "I'm sorry I yelled." "It's okay. Get some rest." He waited until she was inside and the door was locked. Then he drove home, arriving at 2:30 a.m., exhausted and drenched. Mrs. Chen was asleep on his couch, and Sophie was tucked safely in bed. He checked on his daughter. She looked so peaceful, and felt a wave of gratitude that she was safe, loved, and would never have to stumble drunk through parking lots feeling worthless. He didn't even know the woman's name. Saturday morning arrived too early. Sophie bounced on his bed at 7 a.m., demanding pancakes. Marcus groaned and dragged himself to the kitchen, running on 4 hours of sleep. As he flipped pancakes, Sophie chattered about her upcoming school project. She needed to research important people in our city and pick someone to write about. "What about the mayor?" Marcus suggested. "Boring," Sophie declared. "I want someone cool." Marcus's phone buzzed. Unknown number. Unknown, is this Marcus Reed? Marcus, yes. Who's this? Unknown, the idiot from last night. I found your number on the bar's website. I need to see you. Can you come to this address? She sent the address, the same mansion from last night. Unknown, please. It's important. Marcus stared at the message. Every instinct said this was a bad idea. Get involved with a drunk stranger. Nothing good could come from this. But something about her desperation last night haunted him. "Sophie, want to go to Grandma's for a few hours?" His mother lived 20 minutes away and loved surprise visits. 2 hours later, Marcus pulled up to the mansion in daylight. It was even more impressive, ultramodern, perched on a hillside with views of the entire city. A Mercedes, a Tesla, and a Range Rover sat in the circular driveway. He rang the doorbell, suddenly aware of his worn jeans and old jacket. This was a mistake. The door opened. The woman from last night stood there in yoga pants and an oversized sweater, her hair in a messy bun, no makeup, holding a mug of coffee. She looked younger and more vulnerable than she had in the bar. "You came," she said quietly. "You asked." She stepped aside. "Come in. Please." The interior was stunning, all white marble, modern art, and windows overlooking the city. Marcus felt completely out of place. "I'm Alexis Thornton," she said, leading him to a pristine living room. "I owe you an apology. And an explanation. And probably a thank you." Marcus sat carefully on a white couch that probably cost more than his car. "You don't owe me anything. I'm just glad you got home safe." "I Googled you this morning," Alexis said, sitting across from him. Marcus Reed. Bartender at the Metropolitan. Before that, software engineer at Data Sync. Left 3 years ago after your wife died. Single father to Sophie, age 6. Marcus tensed. "That's thorough. I had to know who you were. Who risks their own safety to help a belligerent drunk stranger?" She set down her coffee. "Then I found your LinkedIn. Your GitHub. Your old tech blog." "Why?" Alexis took a breath. "Because I'm the CEO of Thornton Tech. Maybe you've heard of us." Marcus blinked. Thornton Tech was one of the fastest growing startups in the city. Cloud infrastructure, AI integration, worth hundreds of millions. And this drunk woman from last night was running it? "I took over the company when my father died last year," Alexis continued. "I was 26. Everyone said I was too young, too inexperienced, too female. Her voice hardened. I've spent 12 months proving them wrong. Working 18-hour days. No social life, no friends, no time for anything except growth metrics and board meetings. That sounds exhausting. It is. And last night, I found out my CFO has been embezzling from the company. My father's best friend, the man I trusted completely, has been stealing from me for months. We're talking millions. Her hands shook around her mug. I fired him yesterday afternoon. Then I went to a bar and tried to drink until I couldn't feel anything anymore. Marcus stayed quiet, letting her talk. You stopped me from making the worst mistake of my life, Alexis said. If I'd driven drunk and hurt someone, or killed someone, it wouldn't have just destroyed me. It would have destroyed my company, my employees, my father's legacy. Everything. You were in pain. People make bad decisions when they're hurting. That's not an excuse. She met his eyes. But you saw past the horrible person I was being last night. You saw someone worth saving. Why? Marcus thought about Sophie, about Emma, about all the nights he'd wanted to give up after his wife died. Because everyone's worth saving. Even when they don't believe it. Alexis was quiet for a long moment. Then she stood and walked to the window, looking out at the city. I want to hire you. What? I need a chief technology officer. Someone brilliant who understands code, infrastructure, and innovation. I've read your work, you're exactly what Thornton Tech needs. She turned back to him. But more than that, I need someone with integrity. Someone who does the right thing even when it costs them. Someone who can help me rebuild trust in my leadership. Marcus laughed in disbelief. You want to hire me as your CTO because I took your car keys? I want to hire you because you saw a mess of a person destroying herself and chose compassion over judgment. Because you followed a stranger home to make sure she was safe. Because you're a single father who gave up your career to raise your daughter, that's the kind of character I need in my company. She named a salary that made Marcus's head spin. Plus equity, full benefits, flexible hours so you can be there for Sophie. I looked into her school, it's not in the best district. We'll cover private school if you want it. Marcus's mind reeled. This was insane. You don't even know me. I know enough. And I'm a good judge of character when I'm sober. A small smile. What do you say? I say this is the craziest job offer in history. Is that a no? Marcus thought about Sophie, about the life he could give her with this opportunity. About finally using his skills again, building something meaningful. About this broken young woman who'd been carrying the weight of the world alone. Can I think about it? Of course. But Marcus? Alexis's expression turned serious. Last night, you saved my life. Not just by taking my keys, by reminding me that I'm not alone. That there are still good people in the world. I'd forgotten that. Marcus went home and talked to Sophie. He talked to his mother. He lay awake that night thinking about second chances and the strange ways life redirected you. Monday morning, he called Alexis. I have conditions. Name them. I pick Sophie up from school every day at 3 p.m. No exceptions. I don't work weekends unless it's an emergency. And I want to implement a mental health program for all employees, therapy coverage, wellness days, the whole thing. If you're going to work people hard, you support their well-being. There was a pause. Then Alexis laughed, a real, genuine laugh. You're negotiating by asking for employee benefits? Take it or leave it. I'll take it. When can you start? 6 months later, Thornton Tech had grown 40%. Marcus's infrastructure innovations had streamlined everything, cutting costs while improving performance. But more importantly, the company culture had transformed. Alexis still worked hard, but she'd learned to delegate. To trust. To take breaks. She and Marcus had formed an unlikely friendship, the young CEO and the single dad who'd seen her at her lowest and refused to look away. One Friday afternoon, Marcus was leaving to pick up Sophie when Alexis stopped him. "Hey. Thank you." "For what?" "For not walking away that night. For seeing past the drunk mess to the person underneath. For reminding me that asking for help isn't weakness, it's wisdom." She smiled. "You changed my life, Marcus. I hope you know that." He smiled back. "You gave me a second chance at my career. I'd say we're even. Not even close. But I'm working on it." As Marcus drove to Sophie's school, he thought about that rainy night in the parking lot. How one decision to not walk away had changed two lives completely. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is refuse to let someone destroy themselves. Sometimes helping a stranger is helping yourself. And sometimes the person who looks like they have everything together is the one who needs saving most. If you believe that one moment of compassion can change everything, subscribe for more stories about unexpected connections and the courage to not walk away.